And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today, we are talking about the preseason opener as the Washington Commanders get beat by the New England Patriots tonight, 48-18. And so we're going to be talking about the key takeaways from tonight's loss. So before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jaden Daniels is going to be hitting, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Zach Ertz, and many others for multiple touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we are talking about the Commanders falling to the Patriots tonight, 48-18. And so there were a couple key takeaways from tonight's game. And so I want to go ahead and start with the New England Patriots. And so I think the first thing here for the Patriots is that they came into this thing with a ton of energy because tonight they revealed the statue of Tom Brady. And so you know that it was a ton of energy in the building. And the very first play for the Patriots, kickoff return, Travion Henderson goes to the house for a touchdown. And I just think that that was a tone setter for the New England Patriots. And I think after that, it was really an uphill battle for the Washington Commanders all night long. And so then the next thing here is I think that the New England Patriots came in and they played their style of ball. I think that when you look at Coach Mike Rabel, just from back in the day, what he's done with the Titans, he traditionally had a team that liked to run the football with Derrick Henry. And I think that he is trying to instill that here with the Patriots. And I think that you saw that because they came out, they were awfully physical, and they were running the football. And I think that their runners actually finished runs a lot better than our players did tonight as far as the running game. And I knew that this was something that they were going to test the Commanders with, and that's exactly what they did. So I think that they came out true to their identity and they ran the football. And so the next thing here, as we shift focus and we look at the Washington Commanders, and so I think that for them, point number one, I think that there were some missed opportunities out there, which we're going to talk about that in a moment, because there was definitely some drops and things like that the Commanders are going to want to clean up on the offense. And then number two, as far as the penalties and things like that, there's definitely some things that need to be cleaned up here with the Commanders. And so not a very clean football game. And so I think that that is point number two. And then three, we'll say this. I think that there were some good performances from the young players. I thought we saw some good stuff, which we're going to talk about that in a moment. But tonight, the Commanders were not the better team. And so you got to give the Patriots their credit for coming out and playing their style of ball, like I said. And when you look at the stat sheet, I mean, really, there's not like a whole bunch that jumps out at you because when you look at the plays ran 66-61, like that's not huge. And in fact, when you look at the total yards, you see that the Commanders were over top of the Patriots today, 338 to 327. It's just that the Patriots, every drive, it just seemed like it ended in points for them. And it was just either field goals or touchdowns mostly, but I think the touchdowns were definitely tough for us. And then when you look at the turnovers here, this is something that you can never do. One of these interceptions was just, it was pretty bad. I mean, Michael Gallup slips and, Sam Hartman threw it. And so he threw it inside, and I'm not sure if Michael Gallup would have made the play, but he slips and then it turns into a pick there. So I thought that was not a great decision necessarily. But then again, stuff happens during a football game. He slipped in it or whatnot. And so we did get a turnover out of this. And so I thought that was good to see. And it was when they had Drake May out there. He actually fumbles the football. So that was good to see. And we've been talking about this with Joe Witt Jr. and this defense, hopefully turning over teams. And so that was good to see. But you see here, 153 to 101, that's really where the game, I think, was won for the Patriots. They were able to take care of business there. And then you see what they were able to do in the red zone. And then just looking at these penalties, 13 for the Washington Commanders tonight, comparatively speaking to the Patriots 2. And so you just can't do that in any type of game. I don't care if it's, preseason or just regular season. In the National Football League, you're just not going to win like that. In most sports that count the turnover stat, you're just going to be in some trouble there. And so I think that is really the key here from tonight's loss. And so next, I just wanted to go ahead and just kind of highlight some of the players and things like that. And so let's go ahead and let's start with Ja'Cory Brooks, because I think that Ja'Cory Brooks, I think he stepped up out there. I thought that he did a terrific job as far as kind of making some plays and really making himself available for the most part. And in tonight's game for him, when you go and you check out the stats, he had 5 receptions for 59 yards. He did have 16, the longest there. And so that was on 5 targets. And so he caught everything that was thrown to him. And so Ja'Cory Brooks is a guy that I definitely think he has a chance to make this roster. And I thought he took a good step forward today. Next up, looking at Michael Gallup. And so I just talked about this with Michael Gallup and the fact that he slipped or whatnot. But I mean, the one thing that I will say about Michael Gallup is, it was good to see him back out there, especially after being retired or whatnot. And so I think that he took a step forward. It was good to see that, he's gotten past the hamstring injuries or whatnot, what kept him out of, I believe, mandatory minicamp. And I'll say this about Michael Gallup. I think that tonight, he actually looked, I think, better than KJ Osborne tonight. So Michael Gallup, 2 receptions, 27 yards, 13.5 was his average. And so that actually was the second best average behind Jeremy McNichols, who had 1 catch for 14 yards. So not bad there. That is something that Michael Gallup can do, or at least he did with the Cowboys, and that stretched the field. And so next, wanted to shift focus here and look at the guys that had tough days. And so for me, I thought that KJ Osborne had a tough day out there. I thought that he had some footballs that definitely were catchable out there. And the fact that he was not able to make those plays, like I didn't necessarily like seeing that. He had 2 receptions for 14 yards and 7 was the average. And so I know, a couple comments asking about, just the like depth chart there, the wide receivers or whatnot. And I don't know how it's necessarily going to play out, but I'm just thinking like, there's definitely some players that I think that could skip over KJ Osborne. And so tonight, I definitely think that he had a tough day. And so also, too, I think another player that I thought had a tough one out there today for me was Carlin Vigors. I thought that, man, he really had a tough one, because there was one play where it was like it was a comeback route, and then the player catches it and then immediately just kind of turns up fields, runs past him. It turns into a big game there. There was one play where Antonio Gibson definitely trucked him. That was wild to see that. And then there was another play also too in the third, man, where another runner also came up and got the best of him there. So, I mean, undrafted rookie coming into the National Football League. I mean, that is just part of the game. But, man, I thought that he had a tough one out there. But he did compete hard out there. I think when you look at the stat sheet here, he's coming in with the 8 total tackles. He actually led us. But, man, it was a welcome to the National Football League moment out there for him today. I thought that Noah Anagami also had a tough one too. I thought that, look, he definitely – in coverage, it looked like that some people were getting some separation on him from what I saw out there. And so I think that he was another player that I kind of thought had a tough one on defense here. But make no mistake about it, I think that just as a whole today, it didn't matter if we were second, third, fourth string, whatever. This is something that the Washington Commanders definitely want to get better at, because I think defensively, the Patriots – just not enough resistance, because the Patriots were able to get really whatever they wanted to get. There was one play where Joshua Dobbs comes in, and I believe it was late in the second quarter, where he actually he was scrambling back, and then he does a full spin, literally almost falls down, gets up, and then keeps going. And then he, I guess, either jukes or goes around one of our defenders into the end zone. And so, it's plays like that if you're getting that type of pressure, you want to be able to close it down. And so the fact that he was able to do the full spin and then get into the end zone, that was kind of wild. But Drake May ran one in on us too. But again, man, I just think that you see the Patriots come out, they played their style of ball, and they also played, I think that they played their starters for the most part, because Ramondre Stevenson came out, and I thought that he was pretty impactful. In fact, the first play of the game, he went for 4 or 5 yards or something like that on the first carry. And so really the Patriots had a good first drive, until I think that they got derailed there in that series. That might have been the series where Drake May fumbles, but still, they came out and they set the tone here. And so, some other highlights here for the Washington Commanders, keeping it on the positive side today, is I thought that we got some good efforts here from Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt. So just 7 carries, 24 yards today. With those carries, though, I thought that he did a great job as far as getting to the first down marker today. So I was impressed with Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt and what he was able to do. Also, too, want to give a big shout out here to Demetric Felton. I thought that he came in and did his thing. So 6 carries for 42 yards. Led us there with the average at 7, and he had 28 was the longest. And so he broke one off there. Chris Rodriguez Jr., not bad today. 6 carries for 22 yards. 3.7 was his average. And so I definitely think that you can see that he's certainly into some great shape. And so let's see if he can continue to work his way. And so, also too, just kind of going down and looking at our quarterbacks here. And so, I think that Sam Hartman, I think he made some good throws at times. And I think that he put some balls, on some of these wide receivers, especially just going back to like the KJ Osborne drops and stuff like that. Like, I think that they were there. So not a bad showing for him. I thought it was solid for the most part. Again, even though the scoreboard doesn't necessarily show that, and he had an interception. And then Josh Johnson, 15 of 22. He had a TD and an INT. And so that made his day a little bit better, 173. So solid there for him. So let's see what happens with the Washington Commanders. Let's see what happens when they get into practice, if we see some more roster shifting or whatnot. But, it was just quite the day for the Washington Commanders today. And so those were the players that I thought kind of stood out, and also too had tough days. And lastly, one of the things that I was looking at too was the special teams today. And so, I got to give, Kaz Allen a lot of credit, because I think that he did a terrific job back there. And so he had 4 for 101 today. 25.3 was his average. And so also too, Demetric Felton, 4 for 78. And so I was wanting to see what we were going to see from the special teams game. You also see that Jalen Lane had 2 times where he had the punt return for 5 yards today. And so 4 was his longest. Matt Gay, 1 of 2 today as far as field goals are concerned. And so, yep, that's it for today. The Washington Commanders get beat by the New England Patriots 48-18. You guys let me know in the comments here, what are your key takeaways from today's game? And we'll be talking a little bit more here as the Washington Commanders get ready to go back to practice and then get ready to head out for their next game. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking. And as we always say, go Commanders, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.